Queen Elizabeth was far more than a monarch, she was a living legend. Known as the Virgin Queen, she adorned herself with extravagant gowns studded with jewels and governed with a sharp intellect and firm authority. She is celebrated for her influential court, her triumph over the Spanish Armada, and for establishing England as a strong Protestant nation. Yet beneath the layers of makeup and gleaming pearls, there was a woman brimming with fear, pride, and obsession. She was deeply concerned about her image. When it came to personal cleanliness, her habits became quite unusual. In those days, hygiene was less about health and more about appearance. Queen Elizabeth turned cleanliness into almost an art form. She believed that water could cause illness and was terrified of aging. This led her to treat her body with extreme care, almost as if it were sacred, something that time or even plain soap should never touch. In this video, we will reveal 5 of the strangest and most surprising practices Queen Elizabeth employed to maintain her cleanliness. The final one is truly unbelievable. Elizabeth also had a strong addiction to sugar. During her era, sugar was a luxury few could obtain. It was rare, costly, and imported from distant lands. Many people would never have the chance to taste it even once in their lifetime. But for the Queen of England, it was a constant indulgence. She did not merely enjoy sweets, she was overwhelmed by them. Her royal banquets featured candied violets, fruit coated in sugar, sweet almond marzipan, and desserts drenched in syrup. To experience sugar in such abundance was a true display of royal extravagance. The purpose was to flaunt your status. Queen Elizabeth did not simply consume sugar, she used it as a symbol of England's rising might and wealth. Yet here is the startling reality. This sweet fixation had a devastating price. In the 16th century, dental care was rudimentary at best. Toothbrushes were harsh and most people cleaned their teeth using twigs, cloths, or ground eggshells. The Queen, however, possessed her own unique recipe, a homemade paste consisting of sugar and various herbs. Ironically, sugar, the very substance causing her dental decay, was also what she used to attempt cleaning her teeth. To add to the problem, she applied abrasive powders that wore down her tooth enamel. Gradually her regal smile transformed into something quite shocking. Visitors from abroad took notice. By the year 1590 her teeth had become blackened, broken or completely absent. Her breath reportedly was so unpleasant that those near her felt uneasy, and at times her speech was difficult to comprehend because she spoke through a mouth riddled with decay. Despite this, she refused dentists' attempts to extract her teeth. Known for her stubbornness and fear of pain, to reassure her that tooth removal was not fatal, one of her attendants bravely allowed a tooth to be pulled before her eyes. Imagine someone voluntarily enduring severe pain just to encourage the Queen to open her mouth. Yet perhaps the strangest outcome followed. Instead of ridiculing her rotten teeth, the noblewomen within her circle emulated them. Indeed, they deliberately blackened their own teeth with soot and charcoal was used to imitate Queen Elizabeth's distinctive style. Within her court, even having decayed teeth became a mark of status. When the Queen showed blackened teeth, that signified beauty, influence, and wealth to others. The darker the teeth appeared, the higher the social standing one held. In a society where every action of the Queen sparked new trends, having deteriorated teeth turned into a sought-after trait. Such is the impact of regal authority. You might have come across the surprising saying, "I bathe once a month whether I need it or not." Some claim Queen Elizabeth I uttered these words, while others dismiss this as mere myth. Regardless, it reflects the widespread attitudes toward cleanliness in the 15th century and how alien these ideas seem today. At that time, water was regarded as hazardous. People suspected it could transmit diseases, sap strength, and let poisonous air inside, which they called miasma, an unseen toxin blamed for spreading deadly illnesses like the plague. For many, bathing was not considered safe, it was fraught with danger. Therefore, Queen Elizabeth rarely bathed. Rather than cleaning herself with soap and water, she adopted a different method. She frequently changed her linen undergarments known as shifts, sometimes multiple times daily. It was believed that the soft fabric absorbed sweat, grime, and toxins from the skin. No water was necessary, just clean clothing. When Queen Elizabeth did cleanse her skin, she applied rose water, vinegar, or herbal mixtures created by her royal pharmacists. These substances were carefully applied by her handmaids with gentle dabs. This was not a ritual for hygiene purposes but one centered on maintaining appearances. The process was slow and deliberate. She was regarded more as a sacred symbol than as a person. Perfection had to be maintained without exception. Why did she not simply take a regular bath? Because the process was far from simple. Her palaces lacked plumbing or running water. If she desired a bath, it required hauling out a massive wooden tub, heating countless buckets of water, and summoning at least 3 servants to pour, stir, and prepare everything. It resembled the coordination of a royal ceremony. Bathing was considered a luxury rather than a routine. Nevertheless, people described her as clean. She wore hundreds of dresses crafted from delicate silk and velvet. Her scent was a blend of flowers and spices. She carried perfumed gloves, scented handkerchiefs, and demanded a flawless appearance from head to toe. However, all of these details created a perception of cleanliness rather than genuine hygiene. There was no scrubbing, no rinsing, and no use of soap. Elizabeth did not avoid bathing due to dirtiness or laziness. Instead, she shunned it because too much reality could shatter her perfect image. Water might smudge her white makeup, it could weaken the illusion and reveal her humanity. In her eyes, a queen was not meant to be human. Queen Elizabeth's face is among the most iconic in history. Pale as porcelain, smooth like a sculpture, and cold as marble. Yet, that was not her true complexion. It was a mask meticulously painted every single day, not to enhance beauty but to assert power. During her era, pale skin signified wealth, social status, and even divine favor. The lighter the complexion, the higher the rank. Thus, the queen took this ideal to an extreme level. She did not simply apply makeup, she wielded it to craft a legend, an idealized image of herself that could never age or show frailty. Her favorite cosmetic, Venetian Susi, was a lethal blend of white lead and vinegar. It produced a flawless appearance, concealing every imperfection, scar, and shadow. Yet beneath the surface, this poison was destroying her from within. The toxic mixture seeped into her skin, triggering rashes, open wounds, and permanent scars. As her true face gradually deteriorated, she kept layering on thicker coats of makeup until her appearance became a rigid disguise. But the harm did not end there. For her lips, she used vibrant red shades made from mercury, one of the deadliest elements known. The more she applied it, the more her health declined. Her temperament shifted, her memory blurred, her strength faded, and her hands occasionally shook. These were unmistakable symptoms of mercury poisoning. Remarkably, the queen was unaware that every time she painted her face, she was slowly poisoning herself. Why persist despite the danger? Because her visage was not solely her own, it represented England itself. Her appearance was her source of authority. It made her seem ever youthful, divine, and invulnerable. She forbade painters from capturing her actual features. Instead, artists had to follow official templates derived from her younger portraits. No matter how old she became, her portraits remained youthful, flawless, and immortal. She even refused to be seen under natural lighting. The flicker of candles and shadows concealed the reality. In her final years, her face had become so delicate and fragile, it was whispered among people that touching her makeup might cause it to crack and crumble. She hardly ever washed her face. Why would she? Washing it away meant dismantling the illusion and exposing the fragile, aging woman beneath the guise of Queen Elizabeth? Did she realize that the makeup was harming her? Historians continue to debate this question, yet one thing remains certain. She deliberately chose the mask over her health. She was prepared to sacrifice her body to preserve the legend of Gloriana. To truly grasp Queen Elizabeth's approach to personal care, it is essential to understand her greatest fear, which was losing control. Every part of her body, from the painted face to the scented gloves and thoughtfully selected attire, was not merely about appearance. It served to maintain power and conceal vulnerability. During her era, bathing was not only unusual but also considered dangerous. Many believed that water spread disease, and bathing exposed the body in both a physical and symbolic sense. It was viewed as soft, intimate, or even perilous. Elizabeth, having witnessed how her mother, Anne Boleyn, was destroyed by the court, refused to show any sign of weakness. To her, a naked body represented vulnerability. Therefore, she shunned water and created a new form of cleanliness rooted in the use of perfumes and rituals. Every day, she enveloped herself with strong, sweet fragrances. Her attendants prepared rose water, lavender oil, vinegar infusions, and herbal concoctions brewed in the palace's still rooms. These substances were not intended to cleanse the skin but rather to mask any odors. She created an illusion of freshness with just a few drops behind her ears, a gentle swipe on her wrists, and a fragrant handkerchief tucked in her sleeve. She moved through her court like a blooming garden, untouched by any ordinary human odor. Queen Elizabeth carried pomanders, delicate ornamental balls filled with herbs and resins, secreted in her dress or hanging from her belt. Whenever an unpleasant smell came too close, she would lift one to her nose and inhale the carefully controlled world she had crafted. These items were more than mere comforts, they conveyed a powerful message. I am different from you, I do not smell like the rest of the world. Even her clothing contributed to this spectacle. Her gloves were infused with perfume, her handkerchiefs soaked in fragrant oils, and her dresses were built in stiff, layered designs meant to conceal her body and trap scents. She was known to distribute scented gloves to members of her court, a token that came not from her skin, but from her carefully maintained image. Her hair, rarely washed, was a part of the act as well. Bathing was considered dangerous, particularly for someone who wore so much makeup. Instead, her natural hair was stiffened with a mix of sugar water and egg whites, then covered in powder. As she aged and lost hair, likely due to years of exposure to lead and mercury in her cosmetics, she turned to wigs, especially those made of auburn hair, to maintain her unmistakable appearance. Yet beneath all that powder and perfume, her body was deteriorating. Years of toxic cosmetics had left her skin damaged, fragile, and blistered. Tales circulated of peeling flesh, open wounds, and other visible signs of decay. A face so damaged that it could not be touched. Yet, she continued layering paint thicker and thicker. Mirrors were even forbidden in her private chambers. No one was permitted to see the reality, not even herself. It was said she employed a servant whose sole responsibility was to discreetly powder her shoulders, ensuring that no one ever glimpsed her true skin. Elizabeth had become captive to her own deception. Skipping baths was not merely due to difficulty, it was a refusal to erase the mask. Washing the body meant accepting that it was aging, fragile, and mortal. Elizabeth had devoted her entire life to persuading others she was beyond human. In her final days, she carried a fragrant walking stick. When passing unpleasant-smelling courtiers, she lifted it to her nose not only to block the stench but to declare, "I am the queen. I do not belong to your world." Her body was no longer just flesh and bones. It became the emblem of the crown. It needed to remain flawless even if it required hiding the truth beneath. For Elizabeth, cleanliness was not about health. It was a means of remaining untouchable. From the outside, the palaces of Queen Elizabeth of Fura looked like paradise. Towering stone walls, gilded ceilings, plush carpets, and halls filled with melodies and silk. But step inside beyond the royal facade, and the reality was far less enchanting. There were no toilets, no wash basins, no plumbing at all. Indeed, despite the grandeur, the queen resided in a place that smelled like a sewer. Her most private lavatory was an ornate wooden chair known as a close stool. It appeared sophisticated on the outside, but beneath the cushion was simply a ceramic container for collecting waste. This vessel needed to be emptied manually, cleaned thoroughly, and infused with fragrance multiple times each day, a task not performed by an ordinary servant. Instead, it was carried out by an individual wielding royal authority, the groom of the stool. Despite the modest title, this man was far from a mere cleaner. He was a trusted nobleman selected for his unwavering loyalty and discretion. His duties extended beyond assisting Queen Elizabeth with her toileting needs. He also helped her dress, managed confidential affairs, and occasionally participated in secret political discussions. In the peculiar setting of the Tudor court, being near the Queen during her most intimate moments meant proximity to power. The rest of the palace's sanitation was far less pleasant. Flushing toilets did not exist, everyone relied on chamber pots, buckets, or bowls for waste disposal. These were emptied into cesspools concealed beneath the floors or just outside the palace walls. The unpleasant responsibility of cleaning this waste belonged to men known as gong farmers or night soil men. They labored through the night, carrying containers of human waste through dim corridors and narrow stairways, striving not to spill as they disposed of the filth into open trenches. The stench was terrible and persistent. To mask the odor, the palace burned herbs such as lavender, rosemary, and sweet marjoram. People scattered flower petals across the floors and spread straw or rushes soaked in fragrant oils to help trap the foul smell. However, these rushes were rarely cleaned. Dust, hair, crumbs, and decay accumulated beneath them, forming a concealed layer of grime. Even Queen Elizabeth could not avoid the unpleasant odor. She relocated her court from one palace to another, not only for political reasons but also to escape the stench. The longer she remained in a single place, the more severe the waste problem became. No amount of perfume could permanently mask the reality. This was the genuine side of royal existence, a realm of gold and velvet on the surface, yet rot and illness underneath. A place where authority coexisted with filth, where the most powerful woman in England continually fought against the smell of her own realm. Queen Elizabeth did not govern by chance. She ruled with calculation, elegance, and illusion. Her hygiene was not careless, it was deliberate. Every mist bath, every splash of rose water, and every powdered wig played a role in a grand spectacle. In a society where a woman's reputation could be destroyed by a single whisper, Elizabeth fashioned herself into something invulnerable, timeless, and beyond the ordinary. She understood the reality. Bathing meant risking her facade. Water could wash away her influence. A bare face might provoke criticism. A genuinely aging body could shatter the myth she had worked years to create. So instead, she powdered, perfumed, applied makeup, posed, and became an icon. Elizabeth I may not meet today's cleanliness standards, but she was flawless by intention. In her time, soap and water were not symbols of health. They posed challenges to authority. She not only endured but became an expert in the skill of appearing present without revealing herself fully. Ultimately, her genuine purity was not on her skin. It was reflected in her persona. For a monarch, appearance was everything.